So, you watch John Carpenter's Halloween every year? Who doesn't? But what about Fat Albert's Halloween special from 1977 or Disney's Halloween Treat from 1982? You've entered the Gen Experience. I'm Victor, and Halloween TV growing up wasn't just The Great Pumpkin, but every holiday-themed episode of your favorite TV show. Rare, special, and iconic entries that should be on your Halloween repertoire. So, direct from the generation that stands the test of time and gave you everything worth talking about today, the Gen Experience presents must-have additions to your annual Halloween playlist. Here's where we're hit with some classic Gen X entries that go all in on Halloween. There were countless TV shows, whether action dramas or sitcoms, with Halloween episodes. Often, they were simply a spooky tale aired nearest to October 31st. But other times, like the following, they leaned right in and sunk their teeth into perfectly themed content timed directly to All Hallows Eve. A Halloween special filmed in a haunted mansion starring the real Elvira, all while Colt Seavers, the fall guy, is doing stunts in this 1984 Halloween episode. The show turns on all the holiday charm with a mysterious murder to solve. Halloween tropes written with Elvira in mind meant a lot of spooky fun and excitement for Lee Majors, with our double-breasted Queen of Halloween making it an evening he'll never forget. Michael Knight, Kit, a murder at a Halloween party? I'm in. David Hasselhoff and Halloween sounds like a match made in 80s heaven, along with a protagonist named Norman Baines, and the house in question being the haunting home at the Bates Motel. Sounds to me that on top of the sinister music and spooky storyline, Universal Studios just wanted to show off their backstage studio tour in 1984. Seldom does a television episode leave such an impression on you that you want to keep seeing that episode on a regular basis. Kate and Allie have one of those episodes from 1986 called Halloween 2, and I watch it each Halloween right along with The Great Pumpkin and Garfield. The premise is simple. It's Halloween night, Allie isn't feeling in the spooky spirit, Kate eventually gets her to dress up and go along to the parade. Later, in typical sitcom mix-up style, Kate ends up bringing back a strange man named Bill Wells and his dead wife. Spooky things begin to happen that are first blamed on the kids, but is it the ghost of Elaine? Tune in to find out. Not exactly an easy watch today, not by a long shot. But if you're looking for 80s cheese, Mrs. Garrett's got it. Just like the girls got the idea that Edna is a maniacal axe murderer because of a past homicide at the location of her shop, Edna's Edibles.
Oh dear.
More like our four Eastland girls indulged in some edibles of their own in this 1983 eye roller. It's 1984 and Ghostbusters is still in theaters. Different Strokes tries hard to cash in with our Halloween episode that same year. Different strokes for different folks, I guess, because there were another 2 seasons of the well-worn comedy with Arnold, Willis, and Mr. Drummond. And hell, the Ghostbusters couldn't have asked for more awesome free promotion. Now, Halloween-specific episodes of Gen X cartoons were fairly rare, and when you could find them, they were just all over the place. But for one obscure but exciting Halloween cartoon episode of the Gen Experience, I'd have to choose the time in 1987 when the band had to do a benefit concert on Halloween night to save the old opera house. But when strange and frightening occurrences threaten their efforts, can a few strategically placed holograms help Jem? It's the pure 80s aesthetic, the Romancing the Stone type storytelling of Jem, along with her pop music and videos that elevate this cartoon's Halloween above the rest. When the whole premise is about a witch, you might think it's Halloween every episode, but Bewitched was so much more, and they had 5 distinct Halloween episodes that put a twist on the spooky night that leave many people still thinking about it today. Between The Witches Are Out in Season 1 in 1964 to Trick or Treat or Not to Trick or Treat in Season 6 of 1969, the message of all witches aren't ugly was clear. These stories with their magical shenanigans are just as entertaining and poignant today. Although debuting at a time where boomers were the primary audience, luckily for Gen X syndication, the show became a mainstay in reruns well into the 80s, offering some of the best broadcast TV had to offer. But here's the holiday motherlode. Make sure to have these on your required annual watch list. Several timeless and obscure, unique and seldom seen specials to celebrate the holiday premiered during this era. Some stream in their entirety today, while others have been chopped up and seen only in chunks online. But they are all worth a look back at a time when Halloween was raw and devil may care. Speaking of the devil, MTV was still new and struggling for acceptance. Who better to fight for their right to party than Elvira, Mistress of the Dark, in 1984? This first MTV Halloween party raised the roof on the music channel and the visibility for our haunting hostess. The show debuted right after the Fall Guy episode and before Elvira's first appearance on The Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. Talk about self-promotion. The same year Elvira was headbanging on MTV, her mentor was banking on his new popularity from voicing the poetic climax of Michael Jackson's Thriller, hosting his own video Halloween special. With much less headbanging, this syndicated special was broadcast throughout the country on Halloween in 1984 and starred Vincent Price, who presented tongue-in-cheek holiday tunes with his iconic Baroque vocals. Videos like The Time Warp from Rocky Horror and Somebody's Watching Me were presented, as well as illusionists in what seemed to be a throwback to those variety show days. Now, this primetime oddity just spliced together two segments from the Saturday morning cartoon and called it a day. Pacula and Trick or Chomp debuted the night of October 30th, 1982. Somehow this cartoon was more successful than it ever should have been and prompted the original Christmas special as well. At least the ghosts were already in the spirit of the occasion. By now, you've heard of this incredibly awful masterpiece of schlocky variety show content hosted by Paul Lynde. So many Christmas-themed variety shows leave it to the center square himself, Paul Lynde, to take on Witchy Poo and the Wicked Witch of the West and combine them with Paul in a Trucker sketch where he sings about his two-timing girl, or Betty White wishing he were Paul Newman or anyone else named Paul, or the ultimate fantasy, watching the rock group Kiss sing Detroit Rock City before joining them through the rest of this fever dream, including Florence Henderson in the Sahara Desert. If you haven't checked out this dumpster fire, don't you think this year is the time to do it? Falling into the obscure and seldom seen, this 1977 dark Disney special was called the Halloween Hall of Fame and debuted on The Wonderful World of Disney. Although it contained 4 ghostly classic Walt Disney cartoons, it was Trick or Treat that would cement itself in the Gen X brain, no doubt due to that catchy haunted ditty that rings true still today.
Trick or treat for Halloween.
This cartoon isn't too hard to find, but you'll find the theme song just as difficult to shake as It's a Small World. Then, in 1982, an even more well-known Disney holiday special materialized. The original was released as Disney's Halloween Treat, and would get some name changes over the years. Although, strangely, it didn't include the Donald Duck cartoon Trick or Treat, it was the Headless Horseman segment that got our attention. Another great classic song that will get stuck in your brain, Ichabod Crane, is sung by Bing Crosby, who also portrays the narrator of this classic lighthearted romp. Until it isn't. The short of Washington Irving's story of a horseman without a head is Disney at its finest. The cartoon had done more for the legend of Sleepy Hollow than any other incarnation. Yes, even yours, Johnny Depp. This jovial goes dark masterpiece of climactic terror is joined by other spooky and eerie entries from the Disney catalog and narrated by the Magic Mirror. If you're looking for some good chuckles this time of year, then you've got to make time for this educational film. Halloween Safety 2nd Edition from 1985. From costume, trick-or-treating, and pumpkin safety, this modernized the original 70s film with the same content, but just barely. It certainly is a snapshot of Gen X Halloween, complete with homemade costumes and overly protective candy police parents. If nothing else, it's a great laugh. Don't believe me? Check out my last year's riff on the 70s version here on the channel. Link in the description. For those of us who enjoy hearing those vintage Halloween commercials that we remember from our youth playing in the background all season long to take us back and get us in the mood, MTV's sequel to their Elvira Halloween special in 1986 is a great accompaniment. This time the videos were joined by comedic sketches in Salem, Massachusetts, and it's all topped off with a concert by Alice Cooper. For a Halloween bonus, check out Alice on the 70s Muppet Show for some additional great spooky content. In the 70s, cartoons got real, and Fat Albert was one of those Saturday morning cartoons that could entertain you and then showcase the dangers of crime, drugs, and gun violence. But in 1977, a real Halloween special was made for Albert and all of his friends. As usual, there is a genuine message in the special that holds a soft spot for many Gen Xers' hearts, but it's also the simple homemade costumes and the innocence of trick-or-treating that's depicted in a more humbler time that has us going back to North Philly again and again. Connecting a number of Merry Melody and Looney Tunes shorts together to form this Halloween movie, we are so grateful that Bugs Bunny has his own Halloween outing to turn to. A simpler time and one of carefree madness, Bugs, Daffy, and the rest of the gang were comforting. Making sure to include all 4 Witch Hazel cartoons, the 9 animated stories were all original releases between 1948 and 1966, and new animation and dubbing was produced when necessary to link the story together. It isn't a great surprise that Garfield makes the list. He was one of the most popular comic strip characters to exist, and his Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Halloween specials always include an earnest amount of truth and optimism, while entertaining us with shots at Odie and John until Garfield's true colors shine through in the end. If you're not watching this, what's wrong with you? And of course, the Halloween special to end all specials, It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown from 1966. That'll go down in history as the special that all others will bow to. It can't be hard to believe that almost every one of my Gen X brothers and sisters make this annual required viewing, even if only in the background. And who wouldn't? This incredibly successful comic strip had already become iconic with their Christmas special the year before, and would do so with more specials and other TV outings throughout the decades. But wait, there's more! Who doesn't love a good 80s slasher, a classic Universal monster movie, or a good old-fashioned haunted house film to indulge in while getting into the spirit of the holiday? If it's time to expand your usual frightening fare, then lest we forget TV shows that were all horror all the time, some atmospheric, some in-your-face terror, these TV shows surprisingly sold scares as their main commodity. These were anthology tales, but turned the fear and gore up a notch each week. No, they are not Halloween themed, but as bonus spooky season selections, you can't deny their subject matter has them fitting right in. Freddy's Nightmares. Friday the 13th, the series. Tales from the Crypt. Tales from the Dark Side. If this is the last one, do you remember when Fox debuted? It was the 4th major network and had a few solid shows to kick it off. Married with Children, The Tracy Ullman Show, and Werewolf. This frighteningly exciting entry was a departure from the norm on our broadcast networks, but it crossed the line so others could, including some new to the 2 bare-ass scenes of the werewolf transforming back. These were firsts, and we loved it. Perhaps only a sampling of the hundreds of choices you have for your annual Halloween viewing. Have we bulked up your Halloween must-watch list? The big day isn't far off, and I hope you have spent it in the most spectacular fashion. That includes amazing movies, specials, themed commercials, and more. I don't have to mention Thriller, do I? I mean, if you aren't ushering in the holiday with little Michael Jackson Freak Fest, you might be celebrating the wrong way. Never intended to be a Halloween staple, but here we are, complete with Vincent Price's priceless ghoulish poetry and laugh. The song and video for Thriller is a must this time of year. Are any of these your favorites, or one you love to watch year after year? Are you a played in the background or sit down and enjoy them over and over again? Please make use of the comments section and we can discuss it there. No tricks now. Please give me a treat and click the like. Pressing subscribe is the best gift you can give, and I would appreciate the support. To those who haven't, I promise some great shows. To those who already subscribed, thank you. I am so glad you spent some Halloween time with me in the Gen Experience. Please check out other great content on the channel like this one. And here's to a safe but wild Halloween. Until next time.
Time for Elvira's trick-or-treat tips. I said tips.